I said, oh, I've just been reading about that in the museum. Which museum? The Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City. Oh, it's all lies. None of that is true. Somebody at another table overheard us and said, if you want to know what those pictures mean, I know an expert. He's a psychotherapist, but also an expert anthropologist. You should meet with him. He'll tell you your tonal. What's a tonal? It's your destiny. It's using the Aztec calendar and doing a calculation with numbers, including your birthday and birth year and name, to figure out your destiny. He's genius. You should really try to see him while you're here. I called Dolin, and after about 15 texts, we managed to make a meeting. He sat down and he took out his book. It had one of those beautiful red crimson ribbons in the middle and a kind of worn leather cover. He started to explain to me that he was not Mexican, or rather that he is Mexica, which I knew from the museum was one of the pre-Columbian or pre-colonial people that we now know as Mexico. He said, sure, I am of Mexico, but I am Mexica. He then started drawing and telling a long story about this notion where we think English is a universal language, but English is not a universal language. Perhaps it's an international language. And the beginning of these civilizations all started with these three symbols. He drew a line and a seed and a dot. Man, woman, and the empty snail shell, which is also a zero. One was spirit, one was body, and one was mind. The seed and the stick were used together to create the plant. It was a little bit hard to follow, but he proceeded to show me how, with just these three symbols, a whole language was spawned. He also showed me in all of these civilizations, they were using symbols, language, through these symbols and through Nahuatl, which you can still hear its vestiges in contemporary Spanish, the language of the conquerors. He said, we didn't want this language. We didn't want our mother tongue to be cut out from under us. The picture I had showed him was actually about the snail, which is a critical symbol in Mexican origin stories. They look like little beings coming out of conch shells and snail shells. Part human, part worm, part undefined creature. And it's all happening underground between the layers of soil. It's also the story of traveling with your home on your back or being a nomad, but it's also a symbol of going slowly. I was surprised after that to see the snail everywhere in all the tapestries and shirts and rugs. A snail as the beginning of creation, cosmic cycle of life, birth, death, and regeneration. He showed me how the snail was the most important symbol of pre-colonial civilizations, and that inside of the snail shell resides the spiral, which is also one of the most ubiquitous symbols that we see across all of the civilizations of the world, also as a pattern in nature, the spiral. I blinked and my mind started racing. The spiral. The spiral is also the fingerprint, the primary tracking device to systematically locate, track, and entrap those who wish to move freely. I said to Olin, but the fingerprint is now what we use to track people. How did this evolution or devolution occur? He said yes. The state now uses this symbol for systematic control, and particularly with the Mexican people, it's used for the pipeline from birth and into prisons. How could this have happened? This beautiful symbol of birth, reproduction, death, now used as a way to incarcerate and deprive people of light, birth, regeneration, and freedom. I finished my coffee and left the table feeling very morbid.